Hey everybody, it's Josh with the UberProAudio podcast, and this week we got to speak with Jake Kiley from Strung Out. For me personally, this was a huge honor. I'm a big fan of Jake and have been for a long time. My bands have covered Strung Out. I've seen them several times live, and he's just a great guy, and has a really interesting outlook on his approach to playing shows and how important it is for his playing to be top notch all the time. And he had a really great time speaking with him. Just really great down to earth guy who shed a lot of insight onto his mindset when it comes to playing live shows and guitar playing in general, as well as having quality instruments. He had really great insight on custom guitars, and I kind of started poking the bear about getting Jackson to do a cheaper model of his signature guitar. So we'll see what we can do with that. But in the meantime, enjoy. So yeah, I want to pick your brain about a bunch of things and basically go over like your whole history in guitar playing, basically, from the time you kind of got into it up until now. Because I went back and listened to, like, in researching this, I went back and listened to the entire Strung Out discography, and like right from the get-go, you were just a complete shredder, and I would like to know how that happens.
Well, I mean, that first album was, is a big step up for me to have to join this band and play at that level, because I started playing guitar around the time I was 13. And I got into bands like, Def Leppard and Motley Crue, stuff like that, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen. That was kind of like my introduction to guitar playing. Mm-hmm. So from there, I just kind of kept trying to move forward. I learned some Iron Maiden stuff, got really into Metallica and thrash metal, like Anthrax, Slayer, all that stuff. So I was a super metal guy from the time I really started going. And, that was able to kind of build up my chops for playing fast music and, speed picking and all that type of stuff. So it really, punk rock and metal it's really pretty closely related when it comes to the technique of, the speed of it and the technicality of it. So, for when I got the opportunity to play in Strung Out, what I really liked about them was that they were, certainly rooted in punk rock and just good 3-minute songs, but they also were not afraid to put really cool musical parts into it, and had guitar solos and stuff that a lot of punk rock bands just weren't doing back in the early 90s. So, right away that interested me in what they were up to, and I felt, I could add my touch to it and in time, be able to add something to the mix. But right when I got in, I was 17 and Robert, the guitar player, was 21, so I immediately had to jump up to his level, which, I think probably took a few months for sure to get to play even the parts right. But, it was just I had to, the bar was there, so I just had to kind of raise to it. And on the first album, Rob played a lot of the guitar on it. I did a few parts, but he was the majority of the lead work at that time.
Okay. Now, did you, was it a conscious decision to kind of just go from metal to punk, or like you said, did you see the opportunity to kind of infuse the two and kind of go from there?
Yeah, kind of that. Here's an opportunity to play with some really great songwriters. And, growing up in Simi Valley, there weren't a lot of opportunity for, bands. There's a few bands that were playing around, but, not a lot of stuff that I was really into. It was a lot of, kind of Jane's Addiction style stuff. I mean, we're talking 91, 92, so metal was pretty much, done at that point. It was super, uncool to play, shreddy guitar solos and stuff.
Yeah.
And, there was a few bands, Rage Against the Machine was coming out, and that was, super exciting as a guitar player to see what Tom Morello was up to.
For sure.
And, Dimebag Darrell was, kind of carrying the torch for, metal players in those early days. So, but, I wasn't really trying to get in a straight metal band because it just didn't seem like there was really any interest in that anymore. Mm-hmm. And, being younger, I was still in touch with what was going on. I was super into something like Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, that stuff that was coming out. I was listening to that as well as the metal stuff I grew up on. And then I really got into Descendants and, Bad Religion and stuff like that. And that showed me that punk rock could be a lot more than just the Sex Pistols or Ramones 3-chord kind of sloppy playing.
Yeah.
So, that sort of inspired me to say, all right, let me see what I can fuse together with this. Let's see if we can take, the melodic edge and the structures of the Descendants of Bad Religion and Misfits, but add some more intricate sort of riffs and just make it listenable, more enjoyable as a musician to be a part of it. And at the same time we were doing that, you had bands like Lagwagon doing that.
Yeah.
And you had Propagandhi doing that, who are all rooted in metal. And
yeah, absolutely.
kind of morphed into this new school punk rock, more, some of the songs it just was kind of boring to play 6-minute songs with 2-minute like acoustic guitar parts in the middle and stuff. Like it was just, that was so done at that point. So it was really cool to just put like the riffs you could put together in like a 3-minute piece and just, get to the point a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So it was just, it seemed like a very natural evolution for the musicians that we all were.
That's awesome. So now what got you to that point? Like I think most guitar players have that moment that they can kind of pinpoint where they saw someone or heard something and went like, holy shit, this is what I want to do, period.
Yeah, right.
Did you, what was that moment for you?
It's really ridiculous and funny, but it's going to be something like Def Leppard's like Pour Some Sugar on Me or something like that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It was like, it was like being a kid. And like, as a kid, I was into just kind of like pop music, I guess. I was into like, Prince. I was into like, Michael Jackson, Collins, like all that kind of stuff. And, I remember being at like a slumber party with my buddies. We'd throw these slumber parties and we'd just stay up all night. That was like the whole goal, and just stay up, and if you fell asleep, you'd get like glue in your mouth or something. So, we'd be just 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning. We'd just be like, in a daze of Jolt Cola and, caffeine and just trying to like, keep ourselves awake. And I remember stumbling outside of my buddy's house and someone was cranking Def Leppard next door.
Nice.
And it was that freaking Pour Some Sugar on Me song. And I had never heard anything that just sounded that fucking powerful to me, dude.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because it's like the shittiest song ever. But like, it's just that fucking riff, dude. That fucking riff is good.
It's great.
And like, so that was like, I want to play guitar. And like right around that time, my cousin had a guitar and he never took it seriously. It was always just sitting at his house. So I kind of like, went over and borrowed it and just started taking lessons and just kind of, took it from there.
That's awesome. Now with the lessons, were you taking like basic guitar lessons, like, your standard, like, yeah.
There was a shop called World Music in Simi Valley that had, like, at the time, it was an amazing guitar shop, amazing music shop, and they had like a teachers association in the back. So they had, probably 15 really good music teachers in all instruments, So
right on.
My grandparents who I lived with signed me up for that and started giving me lessons, and I would go like once a week after school, for a half hour, and the dude would show me, Van Halen riffs, Led Zeppelin. I think the first thing I ever learned was Cream, Sunshine of Your Love, like that little riff. That
really?
And then, some Jimmy Page, like Heartbreaker, a Whole Lot of Love, like Zeppelin. And then, once I was able to play Van Halen, he would show me that. So it really, and that exposed me to those bands even more because I'd kind of known of those bands, but I never really listened to them that much.
Yeah.
Like I knew like Jump from Van Halen and shit, but like that was like the extent of like my Van Halen knowledge. So by my teacher inspiring me, I went out and bought those records. I got Van Halen 1, I got, all the Zeppelin stuff. So that just made me such a more rounded listener and that benefited me huge.
That's awesome. So did you kind of become
that teacher? I may have never even discovered those bands. I don't know.
So now, did you become like straight? You mentioned Dimebag earlier, and the mythos as it is that he spent a summer locked up in his bedroom and just came out and emerged who he was now. Was it kind of a similar thing for you? You just became obsessed, and like that became it for you?
It was more gradual for me. I mean, it was definitely, it lit the fire, and like, it was like, okay, I know I want to do this. Like, I back then to be a musician was like the most exciting thing in the world.
For sure.
Like the late 80s, like MTV was raging, artists could sell a few million records if you did it, so like there was like huge incentive to like be a musician. So I just really wanted to do it. I started meeting other dudes in my school that were also around the same level. I knew a bass player that had just started around the same time as me and a drummer. So we just kind of started getting together and trying to play together, and just kind of trying to do it. But it was definitely, we learned from each other, like we kind of trade licks and we kind of like, just sit down. And I was a pretty slow learner, I wasn't like the dude that like overnight got good, I actually, like I was a little bit under the curve, like
really?
My buddies kind of like learned it quicker than me, I feel. And I just kind of like was like, I was taking it seriously and I was learning it, but I don't know. I was never the kind of dude to practice for like 2 hours a day. I'd probably play for like a little bit, but as I started wanting it more and more, then I started playing more and more. And there was this other guitar player at our school who was in our grade that just was way gnarlier than me. So like my friends all ended up like wanting to like play with him. So that like kind of fired me up to be like, okay, well, I gotta be at least that good.
Yeah.
Because I want to be in these bands. I don't want to be like second fiddle to like this guy.
Yeah.
So so that kind of like inspired me. And, you know, over the years, like I caught up to him. And then, you know, like I felt like in the high school years, my ambition for it really got more focused, where my friends, these same friends, they got, you know, less focused on music. They started thinking about going to college. They started getting into like hippie music, like Fish and the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
When I started getting more into like thrash
Yeah.
and punk. And I just had set these goals for myself. Like, you know, I was convinced that by the time I graduated senior year, I would be playing clubs with some people, you know, in a band, like already getting ready to, you know, go on to the road and make an album. You know, that was always the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So as luck would have it, the summer before senior year, my buddy got into Strung Out, who were like pretty much the most happening local band, you know, as far as just playing parties. And there was one club in town in Simi Valley, and they would play there once in a while. So for me, it was like, oh shit, if I can get in with these guys, here's my shot to be playing the venues and touring. And even if this doesn't like last forever, I can meet people through this. Like this could be like my conduit to getting into a better situation if this doesn't work out. But I've got to go for this, you know. And it was trippy for me because I was like 17 at the time. These guys were all, you know, 21, 22, which at the time that's a pretty big gap.
Well, yeah, because like
these days.
You can't even drink at that age. Like I'm in Canada right now, and that's like 18's legal drinking, or 18 or 19. But it's 21, right, in the States?
Yeah, 21 down here. So like for the first few years, like we would play shows and they wouldn't let me in.
Oh my God.
So it was showtime. So I'd have to sit in like Jim Cherry's 57 Chevy and just like listen to tapes while the guys were inside the bar. And then he'd come out and bring me in.
That's
and then
crazy.
I got to go back out. So
that's crazy.
Like a number of times. That happened a number of times until we really started touring. Once you start touring, everyone just assumes you're whatever age. So even though I was only 18 on our first tour, no one ever ever gave me shit. No one asked for my ID or nothing. They assumed I was, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but dude, in those early days, it was definitely like, whoa, like I'm jumping head first into this. But I think, you know, like there's definitely something to this band, you know, like I knew the songs were something that was a little unique and definitely, you know, the best opportunity I had around me to be playing aggressive, fast, melodic music, which was really what my favorite type of music was. So it just really worked out. And then over time, I feel I've been able to get my input in the band, you know, to where now I'm like, you know, an equal writer and stuff.
Yeah.
But in those early days, I was definitely not much of a writer in the band. I was more like, hey guys, show me what you want me to do. They already had a bunch of songs. So I was like, hey, just teach me the songs. And like, that was a challenge enough to like learn to play these like pretty fast, you know, like if you listen to the Skinny Ears album, that the very first thing we ever put out, it was actually a demo.
Yep.
That was like, they had that out when I joined the band. So I had to learn that whole demo.
Oh, geez.
And, you know, I listen to it now and it's pretty freaking rudimentary, but at the time it was beyond anything I had ever played or tried to play along with. So yeah, it was definitely, I had to just jump headfirst into it and, you know, see if I swam or sank. And luckily I was able to hang in there.
So now,
but you know, it's a learning experience.
From that moment, like that first record hit it was 1994, I think, Another Day in Paradise dropped, if I'm not mistaken. And that's like the year of punk rock music. That was, you know, Offspring, Rancid, Weezer, Green Day, Bouncing Souls. Like that was everybody that came out that year. Millencolin, I think, too. Blink-182. How crazy is that for you, like going into that where, you know, your goal was to make an album and the first album you make drops at the perfect time?
Oh, yeah. It was exactly, you know, I mean, growing up in Southern California, there wasn't buzz. There was something happening with that scene that I couldn't put my finger on it. And same with the rest of the guys that I was playing with and around it. Like, they're like, this type of music, it's just, no one knows about it yet, but it's so good. It's so catchy. It's so hooky. It's so fun. Like there's something crazy is going to happen with this. We could feel it, you know? And we started playing shows with Green Day before they signed to Warner Brothers. And they were already pretty big, you know, they were drawing like 400 people at a club. So that was like, you know, pretty big time at the time. Yeah. And we were playing with No Effects a little bit, playing with Pennywise, you know, and these guys were bringing in, you know, 400 to 500 people a night, which was like a big deal at the time. But yeah, once Green Day got on the radio and then Offspring shortly after, then it just was this explosion. And it was definitely pretty incredible to be like on the ground floor to see that happen. You know, like people that we were kind of surrounded by, like now they're like, having the number one record in the country and shit. So it was definitely encouraging. And I think that's why you saw like so many bands, like, you know, put such dynamite first records out at that time. Cause it was like, there's just, you know, sky was the limit for where it could go, it seemed.
Oh, for sure. So now, from the first album that you released until, say, like the most recent album, the Transmission Alpha Delta record, how has your approach to recording albums changed? You mentioned you're more of an equal part writer now. Like, how did you evolve?
Yeah.
Did you just become more comfortable in your writing ability, or more confident in your playing? Like, how did you evolve, would you say?
Well, with all that, and then it was also a gradual process, over the years. For the first 3 albums, our former bass player Jim Cherry was a huge writer and a huge, driving force within the band. He was pretty much like the ringleader and the guy that got it off the ground. So, I was just basically, him and Robert, kind of the main writers. I ended up putting in, a few riffs here and there. And then by the time of like the 3rd album, I was like writing full songs. I had like 3 or 4 like of my songs on that. And then once we parted ways with Jim, it fell more on myself and Rob to write more of the music. And then, we got Chris in the band, and he was brand new. He didn't really contribute too much on the first 2 records, but then, as time's gone on, now we're all pretty much equal parts. We all put in about the same amount of material per album. But it was just, it was just an evolution. It wasn't like one day we decided it to be one way. It just, the slot had to be filled.
Now, do you go into the studio with all of your guitar parts kind of figured out before, like rough demoed out, like solos and stuff like that, or do you just kind of wing it sometimes?
In the earlier days, it was pretty much like we just went in and tracked exactly what we had,
yeah.
And didn't really pre-produce it too much, didn't really change anything too much. You would refine it, you would put it on the microscope, and you would, get it where it needed to be. But it was pretty much what we wrote at practice is what came out on the record, And I would say around maybe the Exile and Oblivion record, maybe even the American Paradox record. That's when we started examining the arrangements more and trying some different things. And when we did our record with Matt Hyde, the Exile and Oblivion record, that was the first time we really went deep into pre-production and basically said, okay, here's our song. Now we're going to tear it apart. We're going to try different things. We're going to try this part in the beginning instead of at the end. We're going to put this part's going to come back again when in the past it wouldn't come back, things like that. So that really helped us kind of, put the songs into we felt that it helped arrange them in a better way that were more, better for a listener, and maybe not as crazy and linear as our early stuff where it just went from part to part to part.
Yeah.
With, ever coming back, which I like that. I don't want everyone to abandon that, but you can't have a whole record of that for very long or else it's just kind of, it's nice to have some our in there from time to time. So Matt was really able to help us do that. But, with the last record now, these days, dude, it's such a different thing. You go in, our last record, which I think is our best sounding record by far, was actually recorded in the most menial, small recording room we've ever used.
Funny how that happens now, huh?
Dude, yeah. The first few records, we used to go into these big, fucking gnarly, major label, high dollar studios.
Yeah.
Our drummer could get them for, a good deal. And, it's great. You had, people that would run and get you coffee. You had, platinum records all over the walls. It was just you felt like you were real.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of money on that shit.
Oh, for sure.
There's a guy called the Drum Doctor that would come in, and he would just tune the drums, and he would just sit there and wait for them to be tuned again. And that should be thousands of dollars.
No.
It'd be the whole budget that we spend on a record today. That would just be that guy's money.
Jesus.
So these days it's streamlined. It's just we can make much more with less. And we can go in and, for recording drums, you still want to go into a pretty good sounding, open big studio room.
Yeah.
But for the guitars, dude, honestly, we just go we go into a small little phone booth with a fucking amp and just, get that real direct, tight guitar sound. And then, and so much can be done in post-production now. So much can be cleaned up. You can just punch in if you want. And we try to avoid that as much as possible. We try to do it in full segments. And Kyle Black, who did our last record, he was actually pretty hard on us about no, I'm not going to just punch you in. I want you to do the section as a whole.
Really?
Get that feel when we were dude, fuck that, dude. Punch it in, dude. Just make it quick. But he was a stickler for getting it, and he pushed us to a point where we were God, dude, it's already there. What the fuck are we doing? But he would get something a little better every time, and at the end of the day, all that added up to make it, I think, what it is.
So now, on a similar note to that, and this is a little bit of a sidebar, but do you experience, because you're such a technically proficient player, and I compare you to what I say I'm mediocre at best. Okay, so I've been playing guitar for, I don't know, like 13 years.
Well, that's how I feel about myself as well.
Which is ridiculous, just for any average player. It's crazy to think that you consider yourself mediocre. But when I was in the studio recording my first album, it was hands down the most frustrating, soul-crushing experience of my life, because you get a good producer, and we had a good producer and a great engineer, and like terms like pulling sharp made me want to run through a window at so many points during recording. Like, do you at your level still experience any frustration like that when you're in the studio?
Humbly, I can't say I do these days, because we've kind of built it into a thing that early days, for sure, like the early days, like having to play to a metronome, having to like be on fucking time, having to like shit like that was just brand new, and and luckily I had Rob, who was like, he was better than me, so like he was able to like play the bulk of like the shit. If I can't pull it, he would just double the part, and then I would like do the parts that I could play that, but like for sure it was definitely like a daunting thing where it's like, dude, like this is for real, like this is gonna be heard by like a lot of people, and like it's got to be on point. So yeah, dude, I mean, obviously a lot of it falls on the producer and how comfortable you are working with them. And Donnell Cameron was this great dude, the guy that did Another Day in Paradise. Donnell was excellent to work with, very cool. That Mike was in there, he was really helpful, but but it's also very intimidating, to be in the same studio that all the Bad Religion records have been done.
Oh, I bet that's got to be
the, like,
crazy
stuff. Pennywise, it was like sacred ground, so it's like all that inspired me to try to step it up. And I think by the time of like the third album, I was playing all my parts, and we've been touring so much, and I play more at home than I do on the road, actually.
Really?
So I'm pretty conditioned. Yeah, and I'm a metronome nerd, dude.
Listening to your playing, you know what? I shouldn't be too surprised by that. That kind of makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, well, it just makes your job easier.
Yeah,
because I don't want to struggle. I don't want to be up there and fucking struggle. No one's paying to see me struggle. People are paying to see us put on a professional, 100% on event. That's what they're paying for. They're our fucking employers. So that is my job, is to give them that. So, if it takes a couple hours just playing guitar at home to even it out and make sure that I'm not going to choke. And don't get me wrong, dude, I go all nights where I miss tons of fucking parts, but it's, you do the work to try to be as stable and consistent as possible, because when you see people like looking up to you like that way, like the shit you're telling me and stuff, it's hard to like kind of take it in, because it's like, I just see myself as still like learning so much and like just still like on the path to like being who I'm going to be. So I'm by no means at like my end, like I'm still like, hopefully I'm like 40% of where I'm going to be in like 10 years.
Well, it's the whole,
but yeah, dude, there's constantly that, there's constantly, especially these days, dude, there's so many great players out there. And, in the 90s, you kind of could suck. You could kind of not have to be that good.
Your exposure's a little bit less, right?
It was just, I mean, you had Tom Morello, you had Dimebag, but like a lot of dudes were barely like playing like riffs, So like, if you could, I wasn't like super inspired to like keep getting gnarlier and gnarlier, because I felt like we were already sort of like a riffy band.
Mm-hmm.
But now, dude, like after discovering like Protest the Hero and all these fucking other bands,
the math rock,
like okay, yeah, it's like okay, well, obviously there's this whole other level that's going on right now, and we're not trying to do that at all, but we are trying to, keep the chops to a high standard, and keep the music melodic, keep it interesting and exciting, but also technically interesting.
So is it kind of crazy? Again, I'm deviating a little, so forgive me. I'll rearrange this in post-production. But is it kind of crazy to like sit back and think that, say 35 years ago or whatever it is, you're sitting listening to Van Halen records and Def Leppard, and you're mimicking these riffs and you're learning them. And now, fast forward to now, you have kids who were your age then, learning how to play guitar off of your music.
Right. Oh, sure, man. Yeah. It's the 15-year-old Jake thinks about that all the time.
Yeah.
I always compare like, okay, what would he be thinking about what we've accomplished and what I've done? And I think that kid would be pretty fucking stoked, because, it's pretty much what I had in mind.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't looking to be. I never thought it'd be like we'd be a fucking gigantic Foo Fighters band or something, or like I'd be Eddie Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to play gigs that would, like, you know, if we could pack in a club, if we could, you know, make some impact with our albums, that was the goal. And I feel we have done that. So that's like, you know, I'm super happy with that. But that being said, like, you know, there's a healthy competition to like try to, you know, keep growing and reaching more people and all that. But yeah, dude, I mean, it's incredible. Like, I give lessons back home when I have time. And yeah, a lot of times it's Strung Out fans that are coming over and they're just like, dude, like, show me this riff, show me that. That's my favorite song. It's like, how can that be your favorite song? Like, how the fuck is that your favorite song? Like, have you heard what else is out there? You know, like, I know people that have seen us like 80 times.
Yeah.
It's like,
I believe it.
I've never seen a band more than like a few times, like I say, unless I'm on tour with them, you know, like I've seen Iron Maiden once. I've never seen Ozzy. I've seen Metallica like 4 times, like, you know, and those are like huge fucking influences for me. But as much as I love music and that I am a musician, I just don't have that. And these kids see that in us. So that is incredible to me.
I totally believe
they see more
it.
in us than I see in anything.
That's awesome, though. And honestly, even speaking from experience, like my one of my bands used to cover Matchbook, and that was my favorite song to play live. And I'm not even just saying that because I'm
so cool.
talking to you, but like that was my favorite song to close the set with. I think it's one of the best pieces of music out there, and it's like that's kind of trippy.
Yeah, man. I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, I just thank you. Like, it's the first thing I want to say because it's just that's why we put in the time, is to make something that, I mean, it's therapy for us. You know, that's always kind of been our thing, is when we get together and we write, it's a therapeutic thing for us to get this stuff out and to create something that we are really happy to play. And like, we want to be like our favorite band, kind of, you know, like that's always been kind of the thing. It's like, let's not just play something that we know is popular, but we don't really like. Let's do something that we all love, to where if it succeeds or fails, we can be super just proud of what we created. And, you know, I think we've stuck to that. And I think that's what any artist should really try to do, is just, man, fulfill your own goals. Like do what you want to do more than anything. And if you're doing it for the right reason and you love it, I think other people will see that and they'll love it as well.
You know, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I was just gonna say, like, do you find that's why it's a, I want to say a safer approach. That might not be the right word, but you have a lot of bands who do take years in between albums versus bands who, I won't name any bands, but there are certain bands who it's almost like every 12 months they have new releases and they sound rushed. Whereas you have a band like, this is the only thing I can think of off the top of my head, but Fall Out Boy recently came out and said, you know what, we're not actually going to release our album when we said we would, because it's not there yet. Like, do you think more bands kind of need to head in that direction? Because we live in an age where, I mean, even the website we run, it's like we rush to like break news and like post things before anyone else, and that's the age we live in.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the society we're a part of now. But if you want longevity, then absolutely do not rush it. You know, if you want to be a band for more than like a few years, or like just like this little fad, like if you're just trying to catch a wave, you know, that something's going on that's just kind of like here today for a couple of years, like every scene, you know, there's always something that like kind of bubbles up, and that'll be a big thing for a few years. You know, if you're a part of that, then you know what, maybe put out as much stuff as you can to ride that wave, if that's what you're looking for. You know, and I think a lot of musicians don't want a lifetime of this, or a lot of kids. I mean, a lot of people get into it to think that they're just going to get famous, and that they're just going to maybe parlay it into like an acting gig, or that they're going to turn it into like a reality show or some shit. So hey, if that's your interest, your motivation, then you know, jump on that wave and try to just be that thing. But if you want a long career, if you want to span a couple of decades doing this, then take your time, make sure that the quality is the best it can be, make sure that you're the most happy and content with it that you can be, because dude, you're going to have to be playing this shit for years. You know, like we're playing shit that we wrote when we were fucking 20, 21, you know, and we're all like in our mid 40s now.
That's
so
crazy.
Like, we have to really like that fucking shit. Like, you know, and it's like, if you don't love it and you have to play it still, and those are the songs people want to play, you know, I mean, I'm a believer that you play what the audience is there for. You know, you do what you can do. Like you make yourself stoked on your set, but you don't want to just be completely like self-absorbed with your set. It's got to be what the audience is also looking for, and you got to give them that. So, you know, but at the same time, you can't just like, you got to make yourself happy with it, you know, because you're, like I said, man, the people will tell if you're faking it.
Oh, for sure.
So
and you know what,
I really believe in it, man. That'll keep you motivated to do it.
What I was going to say, like, you kind of set up my next question. Like, I've seen you guys live, I think 3 or 4 times now. And, you know, you can go back and find videos of you playing years and years and years ago, like 10 years ago. And then as soon as last week. And you're still super high energy on stage, look like you're having the time of your life. Like, it doesn't seem like you've missed a beat. Like, I don't know. I think that's really, it plays into exactly what you're saying, where it's like, you don't seem like you're having a bad day when you're on stage.
Oh, never, dude. Never. It's impossible for myself because that is the best day I could be having. If I'm playing a show, you know, that's my dream come true still, you know? And sure, when you're on the road for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, it's like, fuck, give me a day off. You know, like, give me a day at fucking home. But like this tour we're on, it's a month, and we had 3 days off in the middle, and like that seriously just revamp me like huge.
Yeah.
You know, like that's all I need. And then I'm good to go for fucking, you know, just keep me out there basically. Because for me, it's my calling, dude. It's a thing in this world. I don't see myself having kids. I don't see myself like really wanting to ever retire from this. You know? And whatever band I end up, you know, going through, you know, so far Strung Out the only band I've ever been in.
Right.
Know, that's ever like, you know, been a real thing. I don't have a side project. I don't do anything else. I'm not looking to. But, you know, if some reason this did stop, I wouldn't miss a beat to, like, keep playing music. You know, like, there's no other option for me. This is fucking it. You know, if I won the lottery, I would, like, start a car company and I'd, like, do some other cool things. But I would always still play music.
That's awesome. Oh, like I said, like, it shows. Like, honestly, you guys put on a great show. And you're stupid tight live. Like, almost to, like, I'm never going to be that tight live. Like, it's great.
Well, you know, we've been doing this shit for so fucking long. We're supposed to be, right? But I could tell you a million things that I think should be better. But you know what? It's also like being your own worst critic is something that you don't want to over criticize, but you also like you need to be critical. You know, you need to want to step it up and not just like just give it. You know, and I honestly I don't drink as much as I used to before shows now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't smoke weed as much like right before I go on. There was times where I'd go on fucking wasted.
Really?
It's completely shit-faced and then fuck up, you know? And you don't feel good when you're up there and you're not doing your best, you know?
Well, and this is the day and age of cell phone videos, which is the worst. I have
a bad night, the world sees it.
Yeah, I remember the first time I got completely wasted. I was like, I bought this brand new PRS. I was like, I'm going to look so good on stage with this guitar. I got wasted.
We played super confident about it.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I was owning, played wireless, ran around the whole place. I was a complete jackass. Someone handed me a video of it afterwards. I don't think I played anything right. I was like off, and it was like, all right, so we're going to cut back on the drinking before shows from now on.
Right. There's a thing that happens where you end up learning how to play good drunk.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it. It fucking blows my mind. It's fucked up to say, but it's almost one of the things I super respect it. Because, like, I've seen like Children of Bodom play where Alexi Laiho was so fucking wasted. He could barely speak.
Seriously.
He was slurring his fucking words in between songs and shit. But when they kicked into the fucking song, it was flawless.
That's crazy.
Flawless, you know? And going back to Dimebag again, he was
good God.
Minute of the day that he wasn't wasted, you know, from what the stories I've heard, he would basically wake up shaking.
Oh,
and
yeah.
have to get like stretched out and would like, you know, do a couple shots and was good to go and would play smashed and
you could go into liver failure looking at what they drink on the side stage.
Yeah, I know. Well, you see how it aged him too.
Oh,
I mean,
for
if you
sure.
look between like 1993 and like 2002, like he's like gained like an extra person.
Yeah.
You know? So like that shit will fuck you up, man. And you know, God bless his, you know, everything he did for music and stuff. And he was the biggest inspiration to me, like from that whole era, you know. But it's a bit of a warning to like just kind of like, you know, don't make alcohol like your only thing.
No, there's a good balance. There's like that 3.5 beer balance. I find that's like cuts the nerves a little, loosens you up so you don't overthink, and then you're good. That's in my personal experience.
It's just one of those things where you got to balance it. And if you want to do this for a long time, like, you know, in our early days, we'd fucking be stoked, we'd party. Where's the beer? Where's the shots? You know, like after the show or even before. But now it's kind of like, okay, we got another show tomorrow. Like, let's just pace it out and make sure that we, you know, because we're on a tour with Fishbone right now.
Right on.
World class. And Revan he is honestly one of the best guitar players I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything that's not really perfect. So, yeah, dude, there's really not much room for error.
Right on. Well, let's.
But you want that, you know. You want that inspiration.
Well, for sure. Well, and like you said, like I have to say, I really respect your outlook on shows where you're saying, you know, it's a job and that the fans are your employers. Like that's a really commendable outlook to have on it, because, you know,
thanks,
I don't think a lot of bands necessarily look at it that way. Always, at least.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know some people it becomes more just like. It's almost like a duty that they're a little resentful of.
Yeah. But
so, you know,
like you
if
said,
you're not happy doing it, there's plenty of other options.
Exactly. I was going to say there's that longevity, like you said. You do if you do what you love and you love what you do, you'll have that longevity.
Yeah, man. Well, I think that's the thing that yeah, dude. And you're doing something that it's called playing for a reason.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be like a fucking something that, like, you know, bothers you. You know, it should be something that you're like, fucking, it's a gift. It's a goddamn gift.
Oh,
so,
for sure.
Live up to it, you know, give it back and pass it on and inspire someone else. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you know, talking to the dudes in like Thrice or like Avenged Sevenfold, these other bands that go on to, you know, achieve much more than us successful wise. They were super into us when they were young,
mm-hmm.
you know, and so that's like a really cool thing to say, okay, like they took it. Now look what they've done.
Yeah.
You know, and then they influence us in Counter, you know, like Thrice, when they put out their first couple of records, that like blew my mind. So it kind of re-inspired me in a lot of ways. And honestly, that was about the time, remember I was saying, like in the 90s, there wasn't a lot of like great guitar playing, you know, like in the punk scene and stuff.
Yeah.
Like early 2000s, like, you know, Thrice, Death by Stereo, like suddenly we had these people that were freaking on fire.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna actually practice now. You know, because I don't want to. I want to fucking be that. You know, I want to keep up with that. So it's you know, it's all about, you know, it's cool to see the inspiration go both ways.
Yeah, man. So to circle back to gear, because I could just talk about playing music forever.
Absolutely.
What was like the first quote unquote good guitar that you got?
Well, after I got my cousin just gave me this crappy. It was like a fake Strat, you know,
yeah,
CBS or like a Sears catalog Strat. So like then I got the first decent thing I got was a Kramer. It was a Kramer Vanguard, they called it.
Okay.
And it was basically like a knockoff of the Randy Rhoads Jackson V. And I was obsessed with Jacksons, you know, ever since day one.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted something as close to a Jackson as I could get. So my grandpa hooked me up and he got me this Kramer Vanguard for like, it was like $350, you know, it was like a few $100, but at the time it was like the biggest thing I had ever gotten in my life, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a professional guitar, you know, it had Floyd Rose on it. It was, you know, really well made. And, you know, so that was like my first thing, but because it was a Flying V, it was a little awkward to like sit down and play. And it was just, you know, so I kind of got over it after like a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And I traded it in on a Charvel Model 3, which is I'm actually sitting right next to the exact same guitar right now, the same, not V1, but the same version of it.
Oh yeah.
Our tech just bought one the other day.
Nice.
And yeah, they're phenomenal. You know, it's a bolt-on, one humbucker, just straight, you know, meat and potatoes guitar, but just, you know, had an EMG in it, had, you know, a Floyd Rose on it, and it was just, you know, that was the guitar that took me then up into the early Strung Out stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did that guitar until Fat Mike got me a Les Paul right when we signed with Fat, and then we started playing it. I actually didn't want a Les Paul at all. I wanted an Ibanez, but everyone kind of convinced me to get a Les Paul, so that's what I got. And it was cool, but I could never really bond with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I heard in an interview that you said that you never you couldn't really connect to the Les Paul.
It's just, you know, they're great for certain things, but they're antiquated and they're like the knob placement's really unpractical for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like the neck is too short, and like, you know, they're great, dude. I can't say anything like Les Pauls they've some of the best records ever have been made with Les Paul, and you get the right one and they'll out sustain like almost anything.
Yeah.
But that's the right one, dude. A lot of the days they're hit and miss now. You know, like we used one on our last record and it did not fucking stand up to any of the other guitars we had.
Really?
So, you know, and
well, they're all mishmash woods now too, and some people say that doesn't make a difference, but it kind of does make a difference.
It, you know, I mean, I'm sure they still come out, but the ones I've knocked around lately, they don't impress me, you know. And don't get me wrong, I would fucking love to have a classic, but they're just, you know, not my thing. I'm a super Strat guy.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I grew up liking. Those are those are the ones I learned on, the Charvel, the Kramer, and, I always like that longer neck, the 25.5 scale.
Yep.
I just prefer the knob placement, the necks are faster, and for what I like to do, it just suits me. But, to each their own. But the Les Paul, I wish I still had it. Actually, I actually lost it a few years ago.
Oh, no way.
I wish I had it just as a memento. But I don't think I'll ever play one again live.
So now, what started your relationship with Jackson? Was it you approach them kind of thing, or?
Well, I was playing the Les Paul, and then we went to Japan in 1997, and as luck would have it, we got hooked up with ESP guitars over there because we were with this band High Standard, who are a pretty massive Japanese band, and they had a good ESP endorsement going on. And ESP being a Japanese company, they had like A&R reps coming to the shows and stuff.
Right.
I was a huge ESP guy as well as Jackson because, at that time Metallica had switched to ESP,
Yep.
George Lynch, Vernon Reid, all those guys. So, my favorite guitars in the world were, Jackson, ESP. I thought Ibanez's were cool. And, and I love, Gibson Explorers and stuff.
Yes.
But, ESP was it's hey, if I can get hooked up with them, goddamn, that'll be amazing. So I did. They gave us 3 fucking guitars
Nice.
the next day on that tour.
Holy
Japan.
shit.
They took us to the ESP factory store in Tokyo, and they let us pick out anything we wanted. So they gave me this crazy $4,000 Horizon, which this is a beautiful guitar, one of the best guitars I've ever had. And it was a guitar I used on the Twisted by Design record and the Exile and Oblivion, or the Element of Sonic Defiance record. And then that guitar got stolen down the line. But anyways, we were with ESP from that point on for about, for a while, from 97 to about 2007, I was with ESP.
Really?
But they honestly they just wanted to start pushing the LTD stuff, the kind of cheaper model stuff.
Yeah.
And they just kind of, I just wasn't into it. I wanted to play the stuff that was just, the better shit. I want to play a top of the line, high quality instrument. I don't want to play like a second rate knockoff.
Yeah.
And they made me an amazing custom at ESP. And they treated me pretty well, but then, it just got to a point where, they only wanted to give out LTD stuff, and I felt like everyone started playing LTD. ESP was very cool when, there weren't a lot of bands playing it, you know, in our scene. I loved being the fact that we were, the only band playing ESP in our scene for years. And then next thing you know, it's everyone's playing LTDs. Everyone's got something that looks like a Horizon. It looks like a Viper, but it's just and honestly, there's something about it, and this is a shortcoming of myself, but when something is really popular, I resist it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Even if it's good. And something is super hyped. Back in the late 80s when Guns N' Roses was a huge thing, I fucking hated them. I was so over them. I fucking hated seeing their shit everywhere. I thought they were okay, but fucking just kind of overrated. And nowadays I can totally appreciate Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
It's after the fact, and I can see what was cool about them. But at the time, I hated it because it's everywhere you went. So I'm not the dude that's influenced by everything around me. I recoil from that. And by seeing these LTDs everywhere, it was dude, I'm kind of over this. And the guy, they had hired a new artist relations guy that was cool, but I'd go in there and he'd be on the phone with James Hetfield or Kerry King, and it'd be he'd kind of hey, just hang on, he'd just kind of throw me around. And honestly, yeah, dude, you're on the phone with fucking legends, so where do I fit into this?
Yeah.
I just felt, I don't know, it just didn't feel very supportive after a while. But, around that same time, and for a few years before, I'd really started falling in love with Jackson again.
Mm-hmm.
And I had seen, that Jackson was still doing well, and that Fender had actually just acquired him. So I was dude, that's actually kind of where I want to be, So as luck would have it, I went to the NAMM show, and a buddy of mine was selling wood bodies to different guitar makers, and he had actually just started working with Grover Jackson on his new company. So he introduced me to Grover, and I just straight up told him, hey man, I want to play your stuff. I'm a Jackson fanatic. You're the guitarist that made me want to play in the beginning. So dude, can I be a part of the team? And he was oh, okay, buddy, you got it. Walked me over to Brian McDonald, who was the head guy over there at the time, and just basically said, hey, put this guy on the roster.
Jeez.
It was crazy, dude. It was insane. It's walking up to Superman and having him fucking let you into the fucking, Fortress of Solitude.
Yeah.
It's how the fuck is this happening? So after that, I kept in touch with Jackson, and just, I bought a couple just Japanese models off him because, Japanese guitars are second to none.
Oh, for sure.
They're flawless, and they're a little less expensive than the USA. So I got those, picked those up. I got a custom made a few years after that, and then I just got my second custom just about a year and a half ago. And they're fantastic to me. They're so great to me over there. They're very supportive. They help me out huge. They don't give me a ton of free stuff, but that's okay. I'd rather pay whatever to get exactly what I want and something that's like one of a kind.
Yeah.
Than just take the free shit that you'll see at any Guitar Center, you know. So that's just the way I am. It's a shortcoming in myself probably, but I'm very picky for like shit like that. So but Jackson and everyone at Fender and Charvel, like they all are just fantastic. To be at such a huge organization and have them take such personal time and care of us, who are, you know, we're pretty small when it comes down to like the big picture, like, you know, but they know we're active and we're in a genre that is not really like, I'm like the only dude that plays Jackson in like the Fat Records, like Epitaph, you know, like even on the whole Warped Tour, like I mean, like one other Jackson.
I was going to say, I can't name a lot of punk rock bands that have him, and by a lot, I mean I don't think I can name 4.
Yeah, not that many, dude. It's all Schecter. It's all SGs everywhere. You know, that's cool, but who the fuck wants to play the same shit everyone else is playing?
Yeah.
You know, I think if people are just scared to like do anything different, or maybe they just don't know. But Jacksons are fucking top of the line. They play better than anything else. They're the fucking sexiest. They're dangerous looking. They're fucking aggressive. They're fucking best guitar ever made, dude. In my opinion, that's little Jake Kiley's opinion. You're not gonna find a better guitar than a fucking
I feel like
Jackson.
when we get off the phone, I need to go buy a Jackson guitar.
Dude, I mean, you know, just check them out, man. And honestly, the ones you play in Guitar Center will probably not even impress you. But if you can find a good USA one, dude, the actual USA quality shit, and they're just fucking awesome, man. It's just, you know, they're my drug.
So now you kind of, I think, I suspect at least you may have already answered this question, but have you guys ever talked about doing, you know, like a limited signature run?
Oh, I've been trying. I've been whispering in their ears. But, you know, it's such a gnarly thing to, like, do the signatures. Our bass player actually had his own signature Squire bass.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was thinking, like, if you guys had... Yeah.
And, dude, it crushed it, dude. His sales were huge with that bass. It was, like, their most popular, like, Squire signature bass.
I believe it.
Like, almost everybody else's. And we were, like, tripping because we're like, how the fuck is this, like, doing so well? Because we're not the biggest band, like, compared to Rancid or compared to, you know, Fall Out Boy, some of these other guys that had sig basses. And Chris's was just smoking. But then they just stopped making it because they, like, I don't know. There's so many corporate sides to it that they'll sometimes go, hey, this is working really well, but we're going to not do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, okay, that makes a ton of sense. But you know, I've been trying to get our guys to do like a low dollar version of of my most recent custom.
Yeah.
You know, because the full on thing would be like a $3,500 guitar.
Right.
You know, I'm not trying to sell $3,500 guitars to our fans, but if we could do that for like $500, you know, if we could do like you know, obviously it would have to be an import. So I'm kind of going against my own, what I was saying about playing, you know, imported stuff or like, you know, like knockdown versions.
Yeah.
But if I could just get it that was still, you know, quality pickup, quality Floyd, you know, maybe it'd be a bolt-on neck instead of neck through. Maybe it'd be like, you know, less fancy binding or something. But let's make it a quality fucking guitar for like $500-$600 that our fans can go pick up, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not going to cost them, you know, 6 months of their salary, and you know, young kids can get it and stuff. And I've been trying to get that across, and like, you know, they're not like super against it. They're always like, oh yeah, we'll bring that up at a meeting, but I'm waiting on the call. You know?
Maybe we'll start banging the drum with this podcast. I think we can make this
dude,
happen.
You know, you know, I'm so humbled just to work with them, dude. I feel like an asshole even thinking that I deserve like a signature model and stuff. But
you know what?
You guys tell me that, and a lot of my fans have been like, dude, can you get? And so I'm like, hey, well, I would love to. You know, I'll ask them, but I still, for me, it's like, I feel like a dickhead kind of asking. You know, I'm just happy to get anything from them.
Well, speaking as a fan, I think it's the best. It's the best thing you can do for your fans and young players. Like I was a big Jim Root fan from Slipknot, and he did the signature Telecasters, and I went out and I bought 2. I bought the white one and the black one, and you know, I listen to you. It's like, oh, you play a Jackson, cool. I would buy that. I don't have $3,000 for a guitar, but $500, I'd go buy that tomorrow, no problem. If it's Jake endorsed, and I love that sound, and you throw, you know, the whatever Seymour Duncan you have in there, like it's that, I'd go buy that for sure.
And I want it to look like a $3,000 custom guitar, you know, with super cool features that aren't on the standard models, you know.
Yeah.
But you can do that without making it, you know, super expensive. You know, you can do the right things. Mine would actually be pretty basic because it'd be one humbucker, one knob, maybe a kill switch like I use live, but maybe not, you know, maybe Spurzel locking tuners, maybe not, you know. I mean, we'd look at factors to keep the price down. But at the same time, it'd be an excellent player's guitar, not
for
trying to
sure.
do a bunch of abalone inlays. Okay, cool. I'm not going to do anything like super, super like showy or glammy. Let's just make it a stripped down, just rocker, just a shred machine. So, I'm all about it. If they'd ever decide to move forward with it, dude, I have a million concepts.
Dude, I think we can make this happen. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think with this and the power of social media, I think we can make this happen.
Well, let's hope so, man. I mean, it would be my dream come true, my absolute crowning achievement to have a Jackson signature model, and Jackson actually just featured me on their Instagram the other day with a really cool, photo and write-up.
I saw that.
A bunch of people were actually like, do a signature of this guitar, like in the comments. So I was like, oh, cool. I hope they see that, and because the more they hear it, the more that they'll consider it, I hope. But they know that we're always active, we're always on the road, and the best thing that I've always tried to tell them is like, look, dude, I'm trying to expose you guys to a whole group that knows nothing about your guitars.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just in a metal band where most guys play Jacksons or ESPs or something. I'm in a band where it's pretty much Telecasters and SGs and stuff like that. So my guitar kind of sticks out, but I fucking fly it, dude. I love it. And I want, and fans love it too. Kids love it. They've never seen anything like it sometimes. They're like, what is that? I'm like, well, let me take an hour to explain to you the history of what this company is all about and how they changed the game in the early 80s. And basically we're the only independent company to ever really challenge the big two, being Fender and Gibson.
Yeah.
Jackson in the early 80s made them shit their pants. And if you look at like the Gibsons that were coming out in the mid 80s, they fucking looked like Jacksons. They had 20 headstocks. They had fucking all this fucking Jackson type features. And Fender was putting Floyds on their shit. Everyone was like losing their shit because Jackson just reinvented the whole game. And then honestly, ESP kind of stole their thunder.
A little bit.
ESP kind of was a Jackson knockoff, high quality Japanese Jackson knockoff. And then, due to whatever circumstances, they really caught on a lot more. And Jackson kind of dropped the ball in the 90s. ESP kind of caught that ball and ran with it to where more people know about ESP now than Jackson, it seems, as far as like kids.
Yeah. For sure. And that comes from their signature guitars and their mid-price guitar line. 100%.
They got all these rad artists. Absolutely.
Dude, I waited a year for the Benjamin Burnley signature to come out. For the guy from Breaking Benjamin. Yeah, it's like as soon as they announced it, I was like, I am going to be refreshing the LTD Instagram page until they launch that. There's a huge market for it.
Cool. Yeah, they're genius. Like ESP are genius with the people that they have. That's why they threw me to the fucking curb. They're like, we can get fucking Head Welsh. We can get like fucking Jakey. All these motherfuckers that are like, I haven't sold 40 million records at all. So I totally get it. So they got the Alexi Lejo. They got all these dudes, but it's just like it's kind of like ironic that like all these people think like, okay, that's like they think ESPs are like Jacksons are like ESP copies or something.
Yeah,
it's like go back
not
to
so
school,
much.
buddy. Like there's actually a different order that happened.
So now
I just try to educate.
So now you seem pretty loyal when it comes to gear, as best as I can tell. Like you find something that you like and you stick with it because you've been with Jackson for a really long time, and you've been rocking those EVH amps for a fairly long time as well, right?
Yeah, man, we got those. Gosh, I'd say 5-6 years ago, and let me tell you, that was just a fantastic situation as well because working with Fender and Jackson, I'd been with them for a couple years when they got together with Eddie and started getting these heads together. And as soon as the thing came out, like I was there, like watching them come out, and I was like, "Holy shit, dude! I gotta get one of these one day. Like this thing's incredible. It sounds so good. It covers such a range of tone.
Mm-hmm.
It can have your Fender twin clean sounds all the way to just the most crushing heavy shit." And at the time, I was playing Mesas, and then I had to deal with Crank amps, Crank, and I was impressed with Crank, man. They had some crazy shit going on for like their first couple years, and they were really good to me. And then they just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
And my buddy Jody, who worked there, like he left, and like I just lost contact with him. So, and then right at that time, I got in with Jackson. So I was just like, okay, well, no one's even at Crank that I know anymore. So I'm just gonna fucking if I can get in over here, I'm gonna try to work with EVH. And then what ended up happening was we at the NAMM show like 2011 or 12, we played like a small little showcase for Fender in like the side room, and it happened to be like televised through like all the Fender websites and stuff. And Eddie Van Halen actually watched our set and saw it and was like, "Who are these guys? I want them playing my shit."
Jesus.
And I was like, And so they came up to me like, dude, Eddie just saw your set. He wants to comp you guys 2 free half stacks. And I was like, what the fuck? It's like, what are you telling me? Eddie fucking watched us just now, and he liked it? Like, what the fuck? You know, like that's another one, like the greatest days of my life. You know,
I can't even imagine.
Like Eddie Van Halen saw us and said, give him 2 amps. You know,
Jesus.
we were trying to save our money to like buy these amps.
Yeah.
You know? So make sure you know we got them, and those are the same 2 we have today.
That's awesome. So I imagine like super quality. If they've lasted you that long without like swapping them out or anything like that, like just high
They're
quality
great,
build.
man. They're tanks. They're super tanks, you know. And you know, yeah, I've switched out some tubes, and you know, I had a transformer go out, but like, dude, they're fucking. I mean, we beat the shit out of these things, and they're fucking awesome, dude. They sound great every night. They sound the same everywhere, like wonderful. Like it's not like some amps where it's like, oh, it sounded good last night. Tonight it's just farty or it's just mushy or you know, like some of the rectifiers I've used are real hit or miss, like from room to room.
Mm-hmm.
But dude, I swear to God, that EVH and we have the old run ones, and Rob actually just got a Stealth as well. Last year, the black one. And that thing's cool, but it's even hotter, you know, like the blue channel, the mid channel, like on mine, it's kind of like a mid rock channel. Like on his, it's just shred.
Really?
And the red one is just like Rammstein. So it's out of control. The Stealth is out of control, but I'm actually kind of partial to the original. I kind of like the original.
And you're using that in the studio as well, right? Yeah,
that's what we used for the whole last album for Transmission. Yeah, we didn't have them on the one before, so yeah, Transmission's really the first record where we have them, and dude, it just cuts through, dude. It destroys shit. It's fucking awesome.
Honestly, it's kind of great to see like a band using basically their exact studio setup on stage. I find that's kind of rare. You have a lot of guys, you know, you have the like, you know, your Bogner Shivas and whatever in the studio, and your Diesels, and then but they tour orange. You know, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to just be able to, you know, have the exact same thing and not have to worry about duplicating any sounds or anything.
Totally, man. And it's just so easy to dial in. And it's like I said, man, it always sounds killer. And it is cool to use the same thing as the record. I've recently acquired a Kemper Profiler too.
Really?
Which, is even the next level of that, where you can actually, you know, replicate every amp you've ever used and import them and just have them from the album. You know, you can get that exact tone from every album. So I haven't gone that deep with it yet, and I also haven't even used it live too much because like we're still kind of dialing it in, and the other guys don't really think it holds up to like the tube heads as much. Where I think it does. I just think we haven't quite dialed it in yet.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited to like mess around with the Kemper more as well and import my amp into that. And then, you know, I like producer friends of mine like Matt Hyde and Ryan Green and stuff. You know, they've been like, hey, dude, hit me up. I'll send you all my tones. So I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
That'll be great. You know, I can get like all our sounds from like all our old records built in there and stuff. So, you know, that may become what I do, but as of now, dude, the EVH is still, you know, and that's what we'll always record with is the EVH. And, you know, I like playing with it live a little more than the Kemper is far right now too.
That's awesome, man. So, like, do you run any sort of a pedal board right now? Like anything crazy? Or?
I do. Yeah. Like the Kemper has it all built in, but without that, with the EVH, I'm using basically all Seymour Duncan effects.
Right
I have a Seymour Duncan Vapor Trail delay. I have their compressor, the Vice Grip compressor. I use an ISP decimator. I have they have this Catalina Chorus that's really cool, and then just like a good old Boss TU2 tuner as well. So nothing too crazy, nothing too boutiquey. I mean, Seymour Duncan are fabulous. I work with them exclusively with pickups and pedals, and you know, their shit's fucking awesome, man. It's right up there. And I was using MXR for a while, but the MXR shit just breaks like crazy.
Really?
I've gone through like so many. Oh, dude, my MXR pedals, like one of them never worked. It worked for like a practice, and it stopped working. And then I had a micro, the little delay thing, and it was cool, but then it just fucking stopped working. Like all the shit it just all broke. So I was like, okay, whatever, MXR. Yeah. So to me, the Seymour stuff is much more durable.
That's awesome, man. Well, I have taken up an hour of your time, and I feel bad taking up any more of your time. But
hey, no worries, Josh. No worries. We're actually at Guitar Center right now. I might run in and buy a wireless real quick. I want to get one of those Line 6 G50s, the small little wireless. So yeah, man. If that's good with you, maybe I'll just head on in.
For sure, man. I really appreciate you taking the time, taking so much time at that to speak with me about everything.
It's my pleasure, and I really appreciate the interest. So thank you.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll be in touch soon.
All right, Josh. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, take care.